Hello everyone, Damon the Scorpion Pill here, author of The Killer Hunters Book 1 Lexi. Now, I just thought I'd do a quick little video to let you in on my writing process, or at least some parts of it. So the part I wanted to talk about today was naming characters. Because I don't know about a bunch of other writers out there or anything, but to me, that's one of the hardest parts, is coming up with names for the various characters. Especially in the genre that The Killer Hunters is, which is horror. I have so many names I need to come up with for victims or, potential victims or people who might need saved. I mean, either way, I need to come up with a lot of names if they're gonna have names. And that can be challenging to me and really put back my writing process, really slow me down. So I came up with a way to get around that. That's a lot easier, at least to me. And it has to do with I have two books here. This one is solely for my Killer Hunter series. This one here, however, is for all my writing in general. There's multiple projects I'm working on, and I included in here. Now, what I'm talking about today with names, and anyone could do this, so if you're a writer, an aspiring author, anything, or just someone who maybe like a DM and trying to come up with different names, this is a good way to do it, because it doesn't make you on the spot have to think of it. Instead, just look up a list of popular names, look up a list of unpopular names, anything, and just write down 100 of them. Just 100 of them in a little list, number them, it makes it easier. So you just have a list of 100 names. Now, I have various lists of names. I have multiple ones. You can separate it into male, female. You can throw in some different nationalities in there, have some like traditional Japanese names, some traditional African names, some traditional European names. I mean, it works well for all of them, just kind of mix them in, sprinkle them in. And so you have your list of 100 names. You didn't have to actually commit to anything, so it's really easy. Just find a bunch of names, pick them out of anywhere, boom, 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 and you have your list. So what you're going to do after that, at least what I do, is I take a percentile die, which is the D10 and the D100. They're dice used for Dungeons and Dragons or other tabletop games. And you just roll both of them. Super simple. Right here, I got 41. I look at my list, and 41 is Blaine. Blaine. So, now I have the name for my character. It was super quick. I mean, this takes a little bit of time to set up, but then while you're writing, it's just super quick. You just keep the journal right next to you, you have the dice, and as you're just typing away, writing away, whatever your style is, you get to a new character, and it's like, oh, what do I want their name to be? And just, bam, I have the name, 33. Saul. It's that simple, and it's not just exclusive to names for characters. And if you needed first and last names, you could do another list of last names and just bam, bam, mix them together. It's easy. But you can also do locations, city names, all of that. And now some people might be like, well, I know I'm not going to have 100 that I need. You can do it with a D20. Just have a list of 20, roll your D20, bam. It's just a lot simpler to come up. If you have the list, it's a lot simpler, I feel, to choose the names, and the randomization of it just makes it better. Otherwise, you're sitting there looking at, just what am I going to name this character? Now, certain characters like main characters, you can still do this for, but you don't have to. Those ones you might have already thought out. Like Colt Crimson, I already had thought out long before I started writing and doing this. He's an alias I've been using for years. And the funny thing about how I got the name Colt Crimson, where that comes from. Now, anyone who's read the books, watched any of my videos on YouTube, pretty much has noticed anything about me, knows I'm a huge wrestling fan. And the WWE games is, one of my favorite games out there because I'm also a gamer. Now, the thing about those games is when you create a character, they started making it where you could have names and a nickname. In the early days, it was just you picked a nickname and that's what you were introduced as. But later on, they made it where you could pick a name, a last name, and a nickname. Now, unfortunately for me, Damon Pill, which is a character I created in every single WWE game I've played, from SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 all the way up to WWE 2K22, Damon Pill is not a name that you can pick, unfortunately. Hopefully one day it will be, but for the time being it's not. But that didn't stop me from wanting to have them announce something. So I started just looking at the multitudes of first names they had, the multitudes of last names, and I just say, okay, this name, and I don't really like the feel. That's not really me. And then eventually I got Colt Crimson. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. That started being a default character I made. So I have a Damon Pill and a Colt Crimson in every single wrestling video game from that point on. I've used the Colt Crimson alias multiple times, be it in my YouTube videos I've done, be it in other games. It's an alias I use. Another one that actually comes from those is Lance Emerald. It comes from the WWE 2, and it's because my best friend, we used to always game together, and of course we'd have to have our, matching ones, because, we'd either be a tag team or just for, he'd run Raw, I'd run SmackDown, and, our top champs would have to be us, so at Survivor Series we'd fight. It was just a lot of fun, but, so I had to have him too, and once again, they did not have his name in there. So we both went through, and he couldn't really think of anything. So I wound up finding Lance Emerald, and I really liked it. So it's just kind of stayed with me, and I use it kind of as an NPC on multiple games, just everything in general. It's just my go-to. If it's not Colt Crimson, or Damon Pill, or Maneki Snow, or Frost, or any of my aliases I use for myself, Lance Emerald's the next one if it's a Mel one. Lexi Lyrewood actually is one that I was just sitting there thinking, okay, Colt Crimson, that's CC. I want this female character to be in the same thing as that, with the first name and the last name starting with the same letter. So I just started randomly going with it. I was like, let's see, Mandy Monroe, nope. Sharon Shanaford, nope. And I just kept going, and eventually I was like, Lexi Lyrewood, because Liar spelled with the Y was something I was like, okay, I can get behind that. So that would give me an L. So I was like, okay, first names, and eventually, I got to Lexi Lyrewood. So hers took me a lot of time. I went through a lot of trial and error with, but I did finally get her name. Interesting fact, Ruth is actually a character that got determined by this. Many people might not know, but she was intended to just be a named character death. That was it. She wasn't intended to go on and be anything more. I was going to introduce her in the chapter, and that was going to be it for her. But she impressed me, and I let the characters drive their own narrative and drive the story. She didn't feel like dying, and anyone who's read the book knows that what she's up to now, and it's actually very impressive. But that's why her name isn't as impressive, I guess, as Colt Crimson, Lance Emerald, or Lexi Lyrewood. And it's because I did this to come up with it, because that's what she was supposed to be, just a named character death. So, yeah, that's how I've come up with those characters. I have more characters I am going to discuss later on in videos about how I came up with their names, because I have a bunch of characters like Isaac the Killer Marionette or Chris Cross, and I'll just go, but when I go over them, I'm not only going to go over with how I came up with the name, I'm going to go over with their inspiration, how they became one of the big four, if they're one of the big four, or why they're low tier. I'm actually just going to go into them as a character and how they came to be, if I'm one of their videos. So for now, I'm just going to leave it at, I went with the Killer Hunters themselves, how I came up with their names. My randomizer here, how I came up with it. For anyone interested in how I come up with some of the wrestlers' names in it, or the celebrity names, it's all matching. So I just take two different celebrities and match the names together, or two wrestlers and match the names together. Like the one who, thank you Houdini, I needed a cat walking in front of my camera. But for them, I just matched the names together. Like the ones who, I know I mentioned, I think it's, give me a sec, I have the book right here. So I have Kane Michaels, which is obviously a mixture of the WWE wrestler Kane, played by Glenn Jacobs, and Shawn Michaels, two of my all-time favorites, which is why they got mixed together. And just a bunch, all the wrestler names are pretty much that, just mixtures of different wrestlers I like. My friend, Lance Emerald, I'm just going to go with that name. His favorite was always Jeff Hardy and Dave Bautista. That's where I believe it's Dave Hardy I go with in the book. Simple, but it makes sense with the context. But yeah, I'm hoping if any of you out there are writers yourselves or are interested in maybe getting into writing or being an author, this helps you if you're having problems coming up with names. And I see my cat is about to block my camera again, so I'm going to go ahead and call it. Thank you all for watching this. Thank you all for reading my book. I'll have more videos like this, and yeah, you guys have a good one, and I'm gonna go ahead and leave. And thank you, Houdini.